No? There we go. Thank you. Thursday, April 3rd, 2014, meeting of the Sacramento City Unified School District Board of Education. We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Micaela Torres, a sixth grade student from Parkway Elementary School. Where are you, Micaela? There you are.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all.
I believe Member Rodriguez has something to say.
Hi, welcome, Micaela. Micaela Torres is an outstanding student at Parkway Elementary School. She began her journey at Parkway Elementary as a kindergartner and continues to be active participant of her community to this day. As a graduating sixth grader, she sets an example for the younger members of her school. Her academic engagement, her artistic endeavors, her passion for physical wellness, and her commitment to the services set standards that inspire an entire community. As a young leader, her influence upon the world comes via her actions. She is committed to those things she is most passionate about and openly displays the joy we can all experience when we actively pursue our dreams. As an avid reader, Micaela enjoys reading historical texts. Recently, her love of literature, language, and art has influenced her to begin writing herself. She also recently took first place in the Martin Luther King Library Annual Spelling Bee. As an active student of the after-school program at Parkway Elementary, she has turned to writing poetry to express herself and to document the world around her. Furthermore, Micaela has also been a contributing member of the Phoenix Park Visual and Performing Arts Academy. Through this program, she has been able to sing in the choir, play the piano, study drama, and write plays and poetry. In all programs and school activities, Micaela thrives even further in physical sports and outdoor activities, which makes her one of the most active students in our district. While Micaela's engagement with the arts and physical activity set a precedent that we will all find inspiring, her commitment to service in the community indicates early signs of her tremendous leadership spirit. During both Christmas and Thanksgiving, she volunteers her time to serve food in the Phoenix Park community. Her mature sense of service is one of the reasons why her mother is most proud of her social growth over the years. As a twin who was prematurely and initially weighed only 1 pound and 9 ounces, and by the way, her twin sister is over here, Micaela has excelled regardless of multiple health adversities she faced early on in her life. She continues to grow, to learn, and inspire others along the way. Next year, she will begin middle school at Fernbacon. There's no doubt in our mind that she will continue to thrive and reach new heights. The Sacramento City Unified School District recognizes Micaela Torres as the stellar student.
Micaela, would you like to say a few words? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we adopt the agenda, I do want to say that there is a clarification for the consent calendar. Mr. Merletti, one of our constituents, has called in to say that actually the reference to organizations with an S should actually read organization without an S. Thank you very much, Mr. Merletti. With that, is there an agenda adoption? Moved by Vice President Pritchett, seconded by Member Arroyo. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Anything, Mr. Ross?
Not on the agenda adoption. We do have comments on 2 items on consent, though.
So 7.0, public comment.
For item 7.0, we have 2 comments from Grace Trujillo and Ralph Merletti.
Hello, my name is Grace Trujillo, and good evening, members of the board and Sarah Gucci. I want to thank you for answering my questions in writing for March 6th and the 7th. I have additional questions in mind. The reason I'm here, and I feel like sometimes, am I wasting my time coming to these meetings? But I said no, because you know what? One more voice makes a difference. And if you're persistent and come and continue to come, I think it's going to make a difference. My biggest concern is the LCAP. As I mentioned before, $20 million and nothing's going to these programs. There is some, but the projection over the 3-year period is going to be a negative $6 million. And that's a concern that we all should be aware of that and make painful decisions now instead of the future. Like I have been coming for the past several years talking about the budget and concerned about the budget. I'm still going to be coming in the future regarding that because there's a lot of schools, I know they have lifetime benefits, but Sacramento has the biggest unfunded liability, which makes it even more of a liability for our school. But I think if it's not addressed now, it's going to be a big impact and a disaster for our Sacramento school district. So I ask the board now, and I will continue to ask, please look into it. Please address these issues. Please work together because I know a voice makes a difference, even though I'm making a voice, maybe not on my school site level, but at the district level. So thank you. And here's my questions, and hopefully you'll be able to respond to them.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, board and superintendent. My name is Ralph Merletti from the Fruit Ridge area, South Sac area. And this is a follow-up to the item that I last spoke about on March 6th at that meeting. And this was about the proposed health center on campus for Hiram Johnson High School. At that time, I expressed concern about the need to be careful about cautious about partnerships, and also I gave an example of a good one to consider. This time, I wish to go on record as opposing the facility unless there are explicit prohibitions against providing abortion counseling or referral or referring to any entity which refers for or does abortions. Specifically, for example, Planned Parenthood and other abortion promoters have long sought to establish school-based clinics on the junior and senior high school campuses, or more recently to offer such health care services with mobile units. These clinics are established ostensibly as general health care facilities, but their primary purpose is to deal with quote-unquote reproductive health care. Some clinics already in operation offer abortion counseling, pregnancy testing, and informing a pregnant teenage girl she has the right to an abortion in most cases without parental consent, and direct abortion referrals, sending the pregnant girl to an abortion facility. In other clinics that do not send the girls directly to the abortionist, the staff will arrange indirect abortion referrals, and some using an interim by which does not send the girl, but to another agency that does send them to an abortionist.
Thank you, Mr.
So,
Marletti.
in conclusion, please be careful.
Thank you, sir. This meeting of the Sacramento City School Board, I'm sorry,
I'm
but...
sorry, President Kennedy. We have two more comments on 7.0
Oh, okay.
from Terrence Gladney and Darlene Anderson.
Good evening, President Kennedy, Superintendent Noguchi, fellow board members. I'm Terrence Gladney. I'm a parent in the district. I'm also a self-employed IT professional. About a month ago, I was quoted in the SACB in an article regarding this district's choices as far as technology devices for our students. What the article didn't say, and many of you know already, was my additional qualification besides being a self-employed IT professional is I served on the Technology Advisory Committee after some issues. I did serve on the committee, but what I'm here to talk about is specifically the result of what that committee put out. The committee, or I guess the people who made the decisions on behalf of the committee, chose MacBooks. And now at Cabrillo, we have a second cart that we're provided, but we're 4 units short of having 2 classroom sets. So we have a full classroom set and another one that doesn't serve another classroom. So we have 1 classroom that can test at a time, even though we spent probably 4 to 5 times as much as other districts did on technology devices. Myself and other parents went through the practice test on the MacBooks, which are more expensive than Chromebooks as well as netbooks, and they have the same formatting issues that the Chromebooks and the netbooks have. Screen size doesn't, the resolution is not sufficient to include the whole question on there. There's other formatting issues with the dragging and dropping, and there's also a learning curve for students that, do have exposure to technology. MacBooks have a single button and some of the other issues that exist. When I sit on a committee and spend hours of my time and offer my insight as a professional, I've been working in IT since 1997. So when I give specific input and I'm told that it's going to be incorporated, but the results aren't that, you can understand why I have doubts about the validity of these committees when you ask parents and volunteers and community members to put their time in. We need to be more prudent. We need to be fully inclusive of all stakeholders, especially when they have the qualifications to give something that will benefit our children. Thank you.
Good evening, Darlene Anderson. In going through this local control funding process, I really realized that there'll be a group of students that are not being addressed, and that's the kids who are being moved because of behavior or parents are choosing to move them. But in the draft plan, there is nothing written for how Sac City Unified School District addresses the issues of the kids in alternative placement. And these are the kids that are being identified basically as low performing or having other issues that keep them from being in the regular placement. I think the law is really clear in addressing what the district should be looking for and who they should be providing the support for. But when I realized that I've been talking about this section of children for a long time, and their funding stays at their home school. So how their services, when they move, that funding doesn't leave after the October CBEDS. But quite frankly, this is the challenge in the district, because I looked at the draft and they're doing nothing different than what they've always done. Healthy Start, parent advisors. Nothing is different. So to target those students that you're not servicing, it would take some out-of-the-box thinking. It would take some creativity and would have to be something that the district is willing to do. I can clearly see now that nothing has changed in the district and nothing will change, because my campus, where my son attends, has lost almost 100 kids this year. And I just can't see anything changing unless the board is willing to act on federal regulations, which they are not. And so don't think that I'm not going to continue to have this conversation, because I think that we owe it to the children in Sacramento to give them a basic opportunity to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all public comment. 8.0, consent agenda with the change that I mentioned about 8.1F. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Vice President Wu, seconded by Vice President Pritchett. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Thank you.
Excuse me, President Kennedy, I'm sorry, we have comments on consent.
Okay.
We have comments from Ralph Merletti on 8.1A and D.
Okay. I'm going to hold off on Mr. Merletti's comments, and I'm going to read my prepared statement that I was negligent to read earlier. This meeting of the Sacramento City School Board is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the government affairs channel on the Comcast and Sure West cable systems. Today's meeting will air Sunday, April 6th at 9 a.m., Monday, April 7th at 6 p.m., and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker identification form located in the back of the community room and give it to Chief Communications Officer, Mr. Ross, who you have seen more than once this evening. Prior to the conclusion of the item's presentation, please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Responses to questions by the public will be posted on the district website prior to the next board meeting. Please limit comments during public comment, which we've gone through, to items not listed on the agenda. If you are found to be commenting on an item that is on the agenda, you will be asked to defer until your item has come up on the agenda. Please turn off all cell phones or place them on silent or vibrate. Thank you very much. Mr. Merletti, I believe you have comments.
This is about the very first one that's listed under grants, entitlements, and other income agreements, revenue, and so on. This is under integrated support services. What this has to do with here, from the period February 18th to June 30th of this year, Student Health and Support Services supporting LGBT students grant funds to be used to improve student health outcomes by developing and implementing policies that support lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning students. And $20,000, there's no match by the district here. I'm glad of that, but at least it's not taking out of the school budget, but hopefully this will deal with protection against bullying, support for college entrance and jobs in the vocational fields. In other words, the overall idea of inclusiveness in the community and competition in the community. But I hope that it will not be used for permissiveness, such as promotion of personal lifestyle, such as unnatural same-gender marriage, things like that. Again, I'm part of this seems okay. I don't know. I haven't looked into integrated support services. Their particular link there to see what this is about, but I just hope that positively it's for more protection against bullying and the support for college and college entrance, jobs, inclusiveness. In other words, inclusiveness but not permissiveness, and we'd say that not promotion but a feeling of well-being within the community. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a second item that you would like to address.
All right. This one, I think, is 8.1D, and this has to do with the student, teachers, and parents field trip to Las Vegas, which I believe is going on right now, since this is marked from April 2nd to April 7th. And what I would say about this is great. I like field trips. I wish I was able to go on field trips like this when I was in high school. And Sacramento City Unified School District should be congratulated for offering these trips. I know that it's on their own finances by private car. But when they go to Las Vegas, I know they're not here now, but I would say to you, see everything that you can on the way coming and going, as well as it's at the convention center in Las Vegas, the robotics. I hope they do very well on that. But they should see everything. Look at the scenery on the way they're coming back. I don't know which route they're taking, but at some point they're going to encounter mountains and desert and so forth, and the types of vegetation. Get all you can out of that, not just what you do at the convention, but everything. I mean, everything that's reasonable. And I know the nickname of that city, but there are some good things to see there. And see the scenery, the natural stuff, the science, the earth science, other things that you can get out of a field trip like that. In other words, a lot of inclusiveness of different subjects instead of just the convention itself. That's what I would say about that. Best wishes to them all. Congratulations to you for signing off on that trip.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ross? Okay, we have a motion by Vice President Wu and seconded by Vice President Pritchett. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Opposed? Abstain? Thank you very much. Communications. CSA. Anybody here from CSA? SCTA? Seeing nobody from oh, I'm sorry.
I apologize for being unprepared. Good evening, Board President Kennedy, members of the board, Superintendent Noguchi. I'm Nikki Malevsky, President of Sacramento City Teachers Association. Growing numbers of my members, along with members of our community, who have learned about the way this district has chosen to go about its business under the former superintendent's process, continues to be concerned about how we applied for and implemented the core waiver. The lies and half-truths about the core waiver are the elephant in the room and are making it very hard to forge the true collaborative relationships that we need. We have quite a bit of work to do about building trust. We see trust leading to collaboration that will ultimately lead to mutual problem solving. Mutual problem solving is the only way to deal with our outstanding problems in Sac City Unified. SCT and the district met yesterday in our first discussion about bargaining. I understand that it was a very genuine and frank conversation about mutual needs and looking for ways forward. SCT has put forth an idea, a framework, to help educator engagement and grassroots problem solving at our schools. Our belief behind this proposal is that our members and school administrators, if given the opportunity and the support, can build the most effective and sustainable methods to close the achievement gap, foster student growth, and maintain positive learning environments. We look forward to the district's response and ideas about that proposal. We believe our people are much more capable than any outside group or high-priced consultant in doing what is best for all stakeholders. Top-down dictates and expensive programs have been tried and have failed under our previous leadership. It is time to learn from those experiences and forge a new day with a new focus on true grassroots problem solving of the challenges facing our district. It would be great to have the elephant of the core waiver gone and out of the room so we can all move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Malevsky. SEIU? Teamsters? UPE? District Parent Advisory Committees, Community Advisory Committee, District Advisory Council, DAC, School Site Councils, District English Learner Advisory Committee, Gifted and Talented Education Advisory Committee, Indian Education Parent Committee, and the Sacramento Council of Parent-Teacher Associations, PTA. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Terrence Gladney, President of Sacramento Council PTA. I believe it was last week, I was presenting on Parents as Leaders in the current cohort of the Leadership Academy. I believe it's the third one this year. Typically, we've done one per year. But the great thing about this one is that it's being done all in Spanish for firm-bacon parents. So I did my best to recall as much Spanish as I could and translate as many of my slides as I could. And it was a very engaging session. During that time, though, I learned from New Leon that she's been notified that she's on the layoff list. And some of the feedback that she gave me around why her position is potentially being eliminated is because the compensation for that position is deemed to be too much for what she does. The problem that we as a council board have with that is that the Leadership Academy is another reported partnership between Sacramento City Unified School District and Sacramento Council PTAs. And the current Leadership Academy as it exists is a direct result of collaboration between Sac Council PTA and NEW on behalf of the Family and Community Engagement Office, but specifically NEW's vision. So we have a problem that it's been deemed that the Leadership Academy in its current existence can go forward without the person who provided the vision, without being consulted. The three components that are in the LCAP, parent involvement, school climate, and also SEL. I mean, NEW reflects all of those, but also the Leadership Academy reflects those. So I think that you guys are playing with fire if you deem that, the program can exist specifically without the person who provided that vision. So I would like to ask that staff consult with our board to look at alternatives, but also look at the importance of that position and the importance of the Leadership Academy to parents as stakeholders. Thank you.
9.3, Superintendent's Report, Dr. Noguchi.
Thank you. When I was a teacher, I thought I had one of the hardest jobs. Not only did I have a class full of middle school students, I needed to inspire and motivate them, but it was also my responsibility to teach the students to work as teams. Teaching students to work as teams may sound simple enough, but I can tell you it's hard work. Listening to others, respecting others' opinions, being responsible for your part of the work are concepts many students struggle with. As a teacher, if you want your students to be in groups, you have to teach them how to first listen to each other. You have to teach them how to effectively communicate their ideas. You have to teach them to respect others' ideas. And you have to make sure that every member of the team has something to contribute and teach them that fulfilling their responsibilities and their commitments ensures the team's success. Learning to collaborate is an essential skill for students to be successful. Teamwork is a life skill, and if mastered, you will be more successful at everything that you do. This spring, the importance of collaboration has hit home with all the big projects the districts and our schools are going through. It is so obvious that our principals and the folks at the Cerna Center cannot do this alone. We can't shift our instruction to the Common Core state standards without our teachers and without our staff. We can't transition to the new state online Smarter Balance assessments without our teachers and our staff and our technology folks. We can't implement the new Infinite Campus, this new student information system, again, without our teachers and our staff. And we can't move to the state's new community budgeting process known as LCAP without the employees, the parents, and the community. It's a lot of work, and it's been made more difficult by the fact that we're coming out of years of bruising budget cuts, and we've thinned the ranks, and we've dampened our spirits. The difficult choices that were necessary during the fiscal crisis has created divisiveness among the ranks. But as I have said in the staff letter last week, I truly believe that this district is poised to come out of this financial crisis, to come out of their divisiveness, and to be a strong place, a place where people want to work and where parents want to send their students. I've worked in education for 24 years. It's not an easy profession. It's a lot of hard work. And through the years, I've come to understand what makes a strong district. That is the foundation of the people and the people that contribute. We have a lot of great people in this district, and I want to thank them for putting in the time and the effort that demands of them this year. And lastly, I want to wish everyone a wonderful break as we come across in 2 weeks, and have everyone enjoy that time.
Thank you, Dr. Noguchi. President's report. Normally I keep this very short because I am on pins and needles waiting for Board Member Kovalchuk's report, so I will make this quick. A couple of things that I want to report out. We're going to two things, Board. The Board gave direction to the Executive Committee to actually meet with the California School Boards Association on some professional development and board development. And so I'm going to hand this out to the board and ask that by the end of Wednesday of next week, that you actually, if you have any issues, any comments, get them to me. That would be great. I think it's a very good proposal put forward by the School Boards Association. And secondly, I'm going to hand out now a draft of a RFP, request for proposal, for legal services that we will be releasing, and give the board an opportunity to make comments and so forth on that also by the end of Wednesday. On the second item on the legal services, I want to make it perfectly clear that that is not an indication of dissatisfaction with our current legal counsel. Mr. Behrens has done a fabulous job since I've been here, and the firm Lozano Smith has been great. I just think that it's a good idea from time to time for us as a public body to go out and see what's out on the market. Mr. Behrens, do you have any comments?
Thank you for those kind remarks, and I love representing the district. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That would be the president's report.
You were very speedy.
Thank you. Member Kovalchuk.
Thank you, President Kennedy. I would like to thank, first of all, Dr. Noguchi for coming to our last Youth Council meeting. We had our presentation on governance, and Dr. Noguchi was kind enough to also be there so students could ask her any questions they had once they saw the documents and how the district works. So in that presentation, what was outlined was how an idea becomes into a policy. And a lot of students were interested in ways they could give input to it and very excited about it. And I would also like to mention another thing that we were talking about during our youth council meeting. We mentioned the Infinite Campus rollout that's coming up right after spring break. And many of them were either very happy about it or very hesitant about it. And the reason was that they were mentioning that many of their parents and grandparents had just figured out how to use our old system. So transitioning to the new system would be hard for them. So as my fellow students are saying, I would also like to mention that to the board. And please, if there's any way to have help at the school sites for any parents who would also like to be involved in that, it would be nice if that was a priority for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ross, is there any comments? Nothing. Thank you. 10.0, 10.1, approve resolution number 2791, a notice of layoff, classified employees, reduction in force due to lack of funds and or lack of work. Mr. Forrest. Oh, I'm sorry. I really don't. 9.6. My fellow board members have things to share. Let's see. Push your buttons here. Okay, nobody's pushing buttons. There we go. Member Rodriguez.
Thank you. Apparently, there's more than one board member that wants to share.
Yes.
Yes.
I
So
apologize.
I just want to report out and first of all, thank you to Ms. Pointer for the very thorough minutes and that we have in our packet, because as I was reviewing what happened at the last board meeting where we had an opportunity to share, I saw that we were not sharing, that there were several of us board members that attended the SCOE, Sacramento County Office of Education meeting that was held by them, to have several of us board members from around the region to attend. We had a very enlightening conversation about different areas of need throughout the Sacramento region, and our interim superintendent, Sarah Noguchi, was in attendance with us. So I wanted to make sure that we reported that out. Thank you. And then the other thing is just with some little community prodding here, and I don't know if Board President or Ms. Sarah Noguchi wants to report out, but our community meetings for the superintendent search actually would probably be more appropriate from our Board President. So if you can make an announcement when these meetings are, time, place, I think that would be appropriate to have at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. I will. That would be Member Cuneo. Oh. All right. Yeah. Push the wrong button.
Thank you, President.
I'm not kidding you. Look at it.
We believe you. Is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just to touch on what Member Rodriguez was saying, and I'm sure that you'll report as well for the superintendent search. I've conducted 2 meetings in my area at Sequoia Elementary and Rosemont High School, and I have another community meeting at A.M. Wynn next Wednesday. So I invite the audience, and if you're watching from home, to please join me at A.M. Wynn for a community meeting, or I'm sure President Kennedy's also going to report on the remainder of the meetings as well. So I hope to see you there and at one of those meetings to give your input, because your opinion and advice really does matter to us. I wanted to also report that I attended the California Activities Directors Conference in Reno with our activities director from Rosemont High School. And the 2 of us were the only ones from our district that attended this meeting, and it was a great asset for our district. And I hope that going forth, board members, I will send you information regarding this conference for next year. And I hope that when you go out into your communities and you speak with your activities directors at your high schools, if you can encourage them to please find the funds and attend this conference, because it really is a great asset for our district.
Thank you very much. And yes, I will report then on the superintendent search. We do have a firm that is, as we all know, is out and going to be holding public meetings. We have 1 public meeting that is being scheduled right now. It is scheduled actually for Monday the 7th at 6 o'clock here at the Cerna Center. And the public is welcome to attend and encouraged to attend to let us know what are the qualifications, what are you looking for, what the superintendent for this community should look like. So please, I encourage everybody to attend. We are also holding, aside from that, it's not just one public meeting, but there are a number of parent organizations and bargaining units and other organizations who have expressed an interest in meeting with the consultant who is doing the search. And those meetings will be held throughout the 7th as well as the 11th. So if you are interested in participating in any of those, please let us know. Otherwise, the public is completely welcome and encouraged to attend on the 7th of April, which is Monday at 6 o'clock here at the Cerna Center. Thank you. Now, 10.0. Or is there? No, okay. Mr. Forrest.
Good evening, President Kennedy, Superintendent Noguchi, members of the board. You have, unfortunately, before you tonight, Resolution 2791, which is a layoff notice for classified employees. You have been provided with, as has the public, a list of the positions which are unfortunately having to be closed due to lack of funding or non-continuation of the program. So I would encourage the board to pass this resolution. We will make every effort, as usual, to find funding to bring as many of these individuals back as possible. Questions from the board?
Public comment?
We have one comment from Darlene Anderson.
Darlene Anderson. At the LCAP meeting, I had a chance to ask about the data and evaluation, research-based information that would be utilized during the dialogue for support services at the school sites. And by the district eliminating the Zango and kind of like wiping this slate clean, they said they don't have data. They won't have data on students. And so it's like they have to build this all over again. And quite frankly, the data exists in this district. But if you get rid of the people who are doing data and actually putting it together, I'm trying to understand the purpose of a district. You never start with a blank slate with a kid. Either the kid is behind in reading 2 or 3 years or advanced in reading 2 or 3 years. But when you're attempting to provide services for the child, you need to have a baseline. And I'm trying to understand exactly what's happening with this LCAP process, because this district won't be required to turn in data to the state, or they'll do the assessments for 2 years, but that won't be information that you get back or information that you can utilize. So just what are we going to do with the support services for kids who are struggling, and how are we going to provide those services, since we are really just doing the same thing of what we always did? And so I have a real concern about that. And I also have a concern through special education piece and how so many people are contracted out to provide services to those kids. How do we evaluate our third-party providers? Because I asked that question a long time ago when I was the DAC chair, and I never got a response on how the district evaluates their third-party providers. And this is going to be making all the difference, because we are going to be responsible to ensure that special ed kids are making it. So how are we measuring that progress, and how are we going to utilize the data? And I'd like to know that. I'd like a response back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Board, questions? Mr. Forrest, I'd ask you to repeat your last sentence of "we are going to do everything we can."
Yes, sir. We are going to do everything possible. Obviously, the board does not adopt either the LCAP or the budget till June, after the May revise, when we know exactly what the anticipated funding will be. The cabinet has recently been spending a lot of time looking at things like what programs, et cetera, need to be reviewed. So as we move through that process, every effort will be made to bring back as many employees as possible. Obviously, this year, as with the certificated employees, the list is much smaller than it has been in previous years, and our objective will be to move forward with expenditure levels which will prevent this type of action in the future.
Thank you, sir. Member Rodriguez.
I just have one question about these. Were the positions funded with temporary funds initially, or are these funds that just are not coming back to the district because of the switch in funding?
It's a combination of both. Some of these were specific grants that only went for a period of time. Others were reductions in program funding.
Thank you.
Vice President Wu.
I'm hoping to see a day while I was still sitting up here that we don't have to approve these resolutions. But in the meantime, this is necessary. So I will move the approval of the resolution 2791.
Is there a second? Second. Moved by Vice President Wu, seconded by Member Arroyo. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you very much. 10.2, approve resolution number 2788, tax revenue anticipation note trans. Mr. Forrest.
Members of the board, President Kennedy, Superintendent Noguchi. This is the second reading of resolution 2788, which authorizes the district administration to move forward along with its financial advisor for the issuance of a tax and revenue anticipation note. You'll note that it is sized not to exceed $35 million. Our current estimate is that we'll need only roughly $29 million, but as we get closer, our estimates become more accurate. I would remind the board this is less than half of the TRAN we had to issue last year. The state has made up roughly half of the deferrals, and we are hopeful that with the passage of the governor's proposed budget, that the legislation to put back or stop deferrals for school districts will go through, in which case we would not anticipate having to borrow these funds again. So again, a direct result of the deferral of the payments of the funds owed the district. This is a very short-term note. It would be closed in September. And as we stated before, Bond Counsel has reviewed all of these documents and given their okay to proceed.
Thank you. There are no comments or questions from the audience. Anything from the board? Vice President Wu.
Move the resolution.
Moved by Vice President Wu, seconded by Vice President Pritchett. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Thank you, Mr. Forrest. 10.3, overview of Section 504 and health services. The superintendent has made the point that we are an hour ahead of time. Don't think you need to fill that time.
President Kennedy, Dr. Noguchi, and board members, my name is Teresa Cummings, Chief Accountability Officer, and I'm here with Barbara Cronick, our Director of Student Support and Health Services, and Pam Whipple, Coordinator of Health Services. Thank you for allowing us to come tonight and speak with you about Section 504 and Health Services. The work that goes on with these two services are usually under the radar, but critical for our students. And we appreciate and recognize the extraordinary efforts of our unsung heroes, some who are here today to help support Ms. Whipple and Ms. Cronick. The work that they do on a daily basis is so critical, and we wanted to be able to provide you and the public just a brief look about what goes on behind the scenes. So thank you so much. And I'll introduce Barbara Cronick.
Right. There we go. Good evening, Superintendent Noguchi, President Kennedy, and board members. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening, and I'm going to start out by just giving you a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to cover the area of Section 504s, and Pam Whipple will talk about nursing and school health services.
She'll go through the staffing, services and data, budget and funding, accomplishments and challenges, changes and trends, and the impact for 2014-2015 school year. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 states, "No qualified handicapped person shall, on the basis of handicap, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or otherwise be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity that which receives federal financial assistance." Section 504 is an anti-discrimination law that protects people from disabilities from discrimination in programs receiving federal funds. We as a school district receive federal funds, so we are subject to Section 504. It ensures equal access through reasonable accommodations. And essentially, it is meant to level the playing field and provide students with disabilities with equal access. This also includes extracurricular and non-academic activities. Individuals protected under 504, their eligibility is a student is eligible if they have a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major activity. A major life activity includes, but is not limited to, caring for oneself, performing manual tasks, seeing, hearing, eating, walking, standing, speaking, breathing, learning, reading, concentration, thinking, communicating, and working. You must have documentation of this impairment. And under this law, the students are entitled under a free and appropriate public education, which is also known as FAPE, in a least restrictive setting. Before I talk about referrals and assessments for 504, I'd like to sort of differentiate between IDEA and 504. So IDEA is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and this is special education law that ensures that children with disabilities have an opportunity to receive a free and appropriate education. Children who qualify for special education services under IDEA must have what's called an IEP, or an Individualized Education Plan. So on the screen, on the left-hand side, it goes through, students that are covered under IDEA. And these are children with disabilities between the ages of 3 to 21 who have one of 13 named disabilities. And it's also for students ages 3 to 5 with one of the 13 named disabilities or an established medical disability. And these disabilities adversely affect the student's educational performance and require specialized instruction and related services. Although and then on the right-hand side, it sort of goes through the definitions that I mentioned earlier of 504. Now, although some students may have a disability, it may not impact their learning in ways that qualify them for special education. These students, however, because they have a disability, such as a learning disability or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, they may meet the requirements to have a 504 plan if their disability substantially limits them in performing one or more of the major life activities that I mentioned earlier. To begin the process for assessment and determination, you need to have a referral. But before you really do need to have a reason to suspect that there's a disability. And this referral can come from a teacher or from a parent. There's something called Child Find, and that's a requirement for the districts to identify, locate, and evaluate children with disabilities. So it's our responsibility as a district to identify these students. So when they say Child Find, that's our job to do that. And this can come out of, you can have a referral, but it frequently may come out of a student study team. Those are also called SSTs. And out of the student study team, if there's a behavior, it may necessitate looking into a 504 accommodation. But before you get there, you must, you have to have enough information to determine whether a student qualifies for a 504. To make this assessment, you gather information from a variety of sources: teachers, parents, doctors, aptitude tests, or formal assessments. In this sense, a medical diagnosis in itself is not sufficient to constitute an evaluation or to qualify a student. The diagnosis must impact, or the disability must impact, a major life activity. Once it's determined that a student is eligible for a 504, you develop a 504 accommodation plan. This is a written document that is usually developed by the team at the school, and it's facilitated by the school site 504 coordinator. At the elementary level, the 504 coordinators are usually the principals, while at the secondary level, it can be an assistant principal, it can be a counselor, or someone that the principal has designated. In the plan, you must address all areas of need relating to the disability. And there are specific accommodations written into the plan, and the person who must implement the accommodations, they are identified in the plan as well. Usually it's the teachers, but not always. And teachers and whoever else is written into the plan must comply with the plan and adapt his or her teaching approaches. There's an annual review to assess changes and make modifications. I want to give you two examples of accommodation plans, and they fall into two categories primarily. There's the medical 504s and there's academic 504s. And there's a 504 I want to talk to you about that's actually occurring kind of as we speak. This is regarding two students who are up at Sly Park, and these are two students with type 1 diabetes, and when they're at their elementary school, they have a nurse there to accommodate their medical needs. And in order for them to access this experience, which is a school experience, it is our responsibility to ensure that they have the appropriate accommodation that they have during the school day. So in this case, there's a nurse up at Sly Park for the week to make sure that the students have what they need to ensure their medical safety. Now, with an academic 504, this is one with a student with, I mentioned ADHD, that's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And in this particular situation, the life activity that is impacted is learning. And they have a difficulty in focusing their attention to detail and work, and they have some challenges in developing connections with others. So some of the accommodations in this instance are preferential seating, refocusing prompts, organizational skills, communication with parents regarding homework on a regular basis, and extended time for completing work. We provide district support for 504s. I am the District 504 coordinator, and so I have a couple tasks involved in that role. I provide a training every year in the fall for principals and all school site coordinators, and this training is presented by Lozano Smith and myself. At that time, all the coordinators are provided with a 504 handbook, which is I was going to bring it, but I decided not to. It's a pretty thick binder that has everything that they need to know about doing a 504. It includes the law, it includes the requirements, policies and procedures, all the required documents and forms and resources. And this handbook is also online so that they can get all the required forms at any given time. And any time that there's a change to the law and there are modifications based on case law, that information is presented at that training because there may be changes in the way they do their work. In my role, I also do quite a bit of consultation around 504s. I do that with the principals and the school site coordinators, particularly around complex issues and complex situations. I do this primarily through the phone, both with the coordinators as well as with parents sometimes. I do get those phone calls. And I do attend some 504s when necessary as sort of like that third party. As you know, with respect to data, you know we're moving towards Infinite Campus, and the responsibility has been to input 504s into Zangle. And for the next 2 weeks, all that data will be migrated over. The principals are putting that data in right now so that when we do the migration, that will carry over into Infinite Campus, so we have an accounting of that. We're all looking forward to having more accurate data with this new system so we can kind of assess our work as we move forward. I'm at the close of mine, but I did want to mention when I was bringing up about IDEA and 504, you're going to be learning a lot more about that. I think it's April 24th, where there'll be a presentation on special education. So with that, I want to introduce Pam Whipple, who will talk to you about nurses, and health services. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cronic, is there any area in the district that you don't touch?
No. Hello, my name is Pam Whipple, and I'm the coordinator in health services. And I'd like to thank the board tonight for allowing us this opportunity to share an overview of what we do in the district and how we contribute to the mission of the district. School health services across the country are a patchwork of funding and services in accordance to state laws and local standards of care. There's one consistent theme, however, the recommended school nurse ratio. That ratio is 1 school nurse to every 750 students, and it is endorsed by the National Association of School Nurses, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the Centers for Disease Control. The ratios range from state to state to very nice ratios in Vermont, as you can see there, to very not nice ratios in Michigan, my home state. California ranks 42nd in this stack up here, and the Sac City ratio average is a little over the California average. And we do have some ranges in our district as well, 1 to 112 to 1 to 4,000. To practice school nursing in California, you need to be a registered nurse with a bachelor's degree, and you need to hold a school nursing credential administered by the CTC. We also have a professional organization at the state level, and we just had our state conference last weekend where we discussed all the hot topics in school nursing. The mission of the Health Services Department is to provide school health programs which assist students and families in the community to reach optimal physical, mental, and social health in order to succeed in school and life. And we accomplish this mission through our core nursing values of safety, patient advocacy, cultural competency, and patient self-determination. Our department has 22 credentialed school nurses at 20.5 FTEs. We have 6 health aides, with 1 open position currently at 2.85. We have 4 hospital teachers in 3 local hospitals at a little less than 3 FTEs. We have 2 health clerks. We have 1 health services technician that supports us in our district office, and then myself. Our hospital teachers deliver instruction in challenging medical environments at the bedside and in the hospital playrooms. They teach K-12, K through 12 students from this district and from other districts, and they facilitate return to school. Our 2 health clerks listed up there do all of the health file review and state reporting for the entire district. And I don't know what I would do without them. School nurses are distributed amongst the district in various programs. There are 3 school nurses in child development, a nurse in youth development, 1 in adult education, 1 nurse committed to the Bowling Green Physically and Health Impaired Unit, which is funded by special ed, and special ed also funds 4 additional positions. We have 3 FTEs funded by 10 different school sites. They'll fund anywhere from a half a day of nursing time to 4 days of nursing time. And that leaves about 12 FTEs to serve the remaining school sites. In our current staffing model, we utilize health aides to accommodate increased needs of students with diabetes. Some programs and sites are relatively rich in nursing services related to grant funding and commitment of Title I funding. Most sites have minimal mandated services, and our current structure leads to some unintentional inequities based on our funding sources. At the site, we provide many mandated services. We do health assessments for students in special education. We do health assessments for students that are receiving Section 504 services as well. And these are students, of course, as Barbara said, that have disabilities who are not receiving special education services. We perform many state-mandated functions, including hearing and vision screening, and we do that currently through a vendor service who is also a school nurse. We do, and the health clerks I mentioned earlier do the immunization surveillance reporting and the physical assessment reporting and dental assessment reporting for the whole district. So our district-wide services are listed here. I'd like to focus a little bit on home and hospital instruction. I'd like to point out there that there are no health services provided in those services. Those are actual instructional services provided in the hospital and in the home. And we dispatch teachers to the home to provide those services. We administer that program. And I'd also like to point out that although the communicable disease outbreak reporting and planning is episodic, when it does occur, it is time and resource intense. It takes a lot of school resources from our department and from schools. We partner with 3 local schools of nursing and provide their clinical experiences here at the school district. We partner with local community-based organizations and medical providers. And we are currently, our newest partner is Vision to Learn there at the bottom. And we are doing a pilot to provide glasses to elementary school students in Title I schools through a mobile eyewear van. Comes out to the school. Some data from 2012-13. We did 2,281 special education assessments last year. And when I say we, I mean mostly the 12 nurses that I was referring to, the 12 remaining nurses. We did approximately 600 care plans. We're still sorting out that data. These emergency care plans are for students who may have some adverse outcomes during the school day, and they include students with diabetes, seizures, bleeding disorders, implanted medical devices, cardiac conditions, and severe food allergies. At the end of last year, we had 90 students with diabetes and 40 that needed daily assistance. I'd like to talk a little bit about what daily assistance means. It means that a nurse will drive to their site. The school site will help the student check their blood glucose with a finger stick. We'll calculate their carbohydrates in their meal. We'll calculate their insulin dosage, and then we'll administer insulin. And then they usually leave to go to another school. Sometimes they go on to another student with diabetes. Some more data here. We gave a lot of vaccinations last year. We're one of the few school districts in the area that still does this. And in home instruction, I'd like to point out that number of 51 students. That may seem very low, but those students are medically and socially and educationally complex, and they require a lot of case management during their experience in home instruction. Despite the volume of all this work, I'm happy to say that we had some accomplishments last year that I'm very proud of and that continue into this year. 2 nurses collaborated with our webmaster to provide online training, to provide consistent information and allow staff to preview, take quizzes, and review information online. And other districts are using our healthy training now as well. We are working consistently on the Hiram Johnson School-Based Health Center, which is the only school-based health center in Sacramento County. And soon we will start construction on a full-service clinic there. Our staffing model project with UC Davis graduate students. We are looking at school health service staffing that is similar to a hospital model that will account for both census and acuity. So census meaning volume or number of students, and acuity meaning their actual need. So if you're familiar with hospital staffing at all, we would like to look at something similar to that. And then in our home and hospital instruction programs, in the hospital instruction program, we're looking at the roles of teachers there, how they differ amongst the hospitals, and which students will benefit the most from instruction while they're in the hospital. And at home, we're looking at the medical necessity for the home instruction, looking at appropriate educational placement, especially for high school students, and transition back to school activity. Our allocated funding for this school year is represented on this pie graph. The general fund currently funds clerical staff, health aides, approximately 2 nurse positions, and my position. And then the remainder of the school nurses are funded by MA, which I'll talk about in a little bit, the district departments, and then school sites on the rest. And then there's that 11% there devoted to home and hospital instruction. Some changes in trends in the last 10 years. Type 1 diabetes has increased 25%. This 10 to 12 years, most of this data. Food allergies have increased 50% in the last 10 years. An estimated 26% of children have a chronic condition. That includes students with seasonal allergies, all the way to students with autism and perhaps another additionally severe diagnosis like diabetes. And actually we're seeing with the rise of both diabetes and autism, we're seeing many students who have both. And those students will need a lot of support in school for most of their school career. Students now have more frequent blood sugar monitoring and insulin administration. Back when I started in school nursing, most students they were given a long-acting insulin before they went to school, and it was our job to keep their blood sugar stable while they were in school. But now there's more advances, there's pumps, and the students are expected to check their blood sugar more frequently and to give insulin more frequently to mimic what a natural pancreas would do, but that necessitates having more health services at school as well. And it's a great outcome. It improves the outcomes, it helps those students to stay in tighter control, but it also necessitates more service. There's been a change. There hasn't really been a change in the law, but there's been a Supreme Court decision last August, and now non-licensed staff may perform insulin administration in California, and that was in the California Supreme Court for 6 years. There is an increased need for training of school staff in administration of emergency medications. We see a lot more emergency medications than when I started in school nursing 10 years ago. We give glucagon, which is an injection for hypoglycemia. We give epinephrine pens for severe allergic reactions. And we can give Valium gel, it's called Diastat, and that's administered rectally in order to arrest a seizure. And we train school staff to do all of these things. And we are no longer cohorting our students with diabetes. Way back in the day, we used to put all the students with diabetes in one school and call it the diabetic school. And now students attend their local school, their home school. But that, of course, necessitates there being some care there at all those schools. So some challenges is that in this same time period I've been discussing, health services staffing has been reduced by half. I know you've heard some talk about the data tonight. You've probably heard a lot of talk about data. And we do lack accurate data. We have some data. We compile most of that data ourselves, but we have a need to provide much more accurate and timely data so we know where we need to put our services. Our unlicensed staff are reluctant to provide medical care. And without the school nurses there, that's who's left to provide it. And our service structure that we're operating under was built with more appropriate staffing levels. But with these cuts over time, we need to look at it. We need to realign it. And especially in health services and special education, we have a lot of overlap between our departments. We collaborate a lot, and we need to look how we can maximize our resources and minimize our costs there. Some potential budget impacts for next year is our MOF funding has been withheld. I believe it was withheld last year as well. That will result in a loss of 8 FTEs. Remember, we have 20. Decrease in school site funding, that's been decreasing over the years as well. That's half a nurse. And the end of a grant cycle is also another half of a nurse, and that will equal 9 nurses. 9 nurses have been pink slipped. So the program impact related to that budget impact is that after the backfill of those funded positions that we have, there'll be 4 credentialed school nurses available to serve the remaining school sites. And we obviously need to examine our service delivery system to maximize our resources and meet our needs. Some potential solutions. At our school nurse conference last weekend, we talked a lot about the local control funding formula. And I think as a district, we need to examine this and see where there are potential funding sources for school health services as well. And Title I funds have been used for school nurses for many years, and I believe we could use those as well. And I'd like to point out that wherever there are educational disparities, there are also health disparities, and they must be addressed together. We need to increase the number of our site-based health aides. We are not in alignment with other districts in our area. They have many more health aides than we do with similar school nurse ratios. And we need to invest our resources in our human data capabilities. I know that we have the system capabilities, the technology the capabilities, but we need to ensure that our data entry is timely and accurate so we can plan our programs. So in closing, I would like to say that health services in California and in this district have reached the tipping point. We cannot continue to do more and more with less and less, and we need every single staff member and more to meet our current challenge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I skip a slide in there somewhere?
No.
Sarah's nodding her head.
You did just fine. Yeah.
I feel like I skipped a
You did.
slide. Okay, thank you very much.
We have public comment, and then I'm sure the board will have questions. Mr. Ross.
We have 13 public comments on this item.
Awesome.
I'll read names 5 at a time, if those can please line up behind the podium in the order you're called. The first 5 comments are from Carolyn Montgomery, Larissa Elhai, Suzanne Octorloni, Janine Griffin, and Victoria Benson.
Recognizing that this is an incredibly important issue and subject, still, if we could just cut down on repetition, that would be great.
Do I begin?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Thank you. I've never addressed a school board meeting before. My name is Carolyn Montgomery. I am the office manager at Sutterville Elementary School. And what you've just heard is the big picture. I'm the small picture. I have myself and my clerk and occasionally my principal and 600 students. This is my Bible. Grant you, office managers have a full-time job. This is the nursing part, which was added to our jobs a few years ago. This is every student at my school that has a health problem. This was faithfully typed up by our school nurse, keeping it updated and making sure that at least if something goes wrong, we have a little bit of instruction. I've got 9 children here who have EpiPens, and they're dead serious. They have food allergies, they have bee sting allergies, and yes, we've had to use them on occasion. I believe they just mentioned seizures. We have Michael, who has had seizures for many years. He's actually had whatever the brain operation is that separates the halves of your brain to try and control the seizures. And they want me to do anal Valium on him. I don't have a shred of medical training, not at all. We've addressed the diabetic issue. We've not come to my having to administer injections. I don't want to have to do that. I have, in addition to just those two, I have got AJ, liver transplant. It wasn't his real name. I'm sorry. I'm making these up. I knew that much. He had a rejection incident in February that started at school. He wound up being life flighted to Stanford Children's Center. These are, my examples of what I have to deal with daily, and I have no training for it. And really, I don't want to be put in that position. So, thank you very much.
Very much.
Good evening. My name is Suzanne Octoloni. I'm a registered nurse, and I've been with the district since 2000. I've been a nurse for 35 years. And when I first started, there were 40 nurses. Now we're down to 22, and now we're going to take away 40%. I think this decision is gravely impossible. We are going to put our kids at risk. Remember, to keep kids safe at school, nurses are the ones who train staff on how to use EpiPens and glucagon. We're the ones who manage the large number of diabetic students in the district and keep staff informed of these students. We are the ones that do all the mandated health evaluations for special education and preschool. Nurses are the ones who alert and train staff to help students with seizures and other chronic illnesses that affect learning and attendance. And we're integral in supporting the staff at the school sites with student wellness and safety. With a 40% cut to our nursing staff, we're gravely concerned there will not be enough of us to perform the state-mandated health services as well as these essential functions mentioned above. Our school district says that we believe in a holistic approach to student achievement that fosters student engagement in clean, healthy, and safe environments in one breath, and then decimates our department in the next breath. We are not a luxury. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Larissa Elhai, and I have been a school nurse with the district for 14 years. Not only do school nurses care for and support our students, we support our staff so they can more effectively and safely teach our students. The school nurses work hard to train staff to take care of health emergencies for students at risk. This year alone, I have trained over 60 staff members at the 6 schools I serve to give life-saving epinephrine shots to students with severe allergic reactions and glucagon shots to students with diabetes if they're having a life-threatening situation. I have also written over 100 emergency health care plans for other students with serious health conditions such as seizures, cancer, heart conditions, organ transplants, hemophilia, and sickle cell anemia. Each one is tailored to a specific student and has detailed instructions on what to do in case of emergency and who to contact. This training and information is critical for the safety of our students, the peace of mind of our families, and the competence of our staff. School nurses have the professional knowledge, experience, and skill to train our staff and protect our students. Please help us keep a sufficient number of school nurses to continue to do so. And I wanted to thank my office manager, one of my office managers who came up and spoke. And thank you.
Good evening, President Kennedy, Superintendent Noguchi, and board members. My name is Janine Griffin. I care for students attending the Bowling Green Physically and Health Impaired unit. My students have complex health conditions which require nursing support to provide nutrition through a tube inserted into the stomach, to empty the bladder with a catheter, to monitor seizure activity, and to develop classroom accommodations that allow these students access to the curriculum. Many of my students require total assistance with all activities of daily living. This means that they are totally dependent on others to help with feeding, toileting, position changes, communication, and all academic activities. I have been fortunate to work on this unit for the last 4 years, and I have formed effective relationships with parents, staff, and outside medical providers. These relationships enable these children to attend school and assist staff and parents in providing care to these students, which keep them safe in the academic environment. I will be attending a clinic appointment next week at the invitation of a parent whose child has a kidney complication and requires intermittent catheterization. The mother asks that I accompany her because she has difficulty explaining her concerns to the physician and needs help understanding changes in her child's care. I received a layoff notice. Thank you for your time.
While our next speaker approaches the microphone, if our next 5 speakers could please line up. Rebecca Wall, Alexis Corin, Julie Scarberry, Terry Fox, and Jennifer Baksafra.
Good evening, members of the board. Please excuse my laryngitis. I need to practice more wellness like I preach. My name is Victoria Benson, and it has been my privilege to serve as your school nurse in this district for the past 9 years. I hold a school nursing credential, a master's degree, and I'm also a pediatric nurse practitioner. Some of my current responsibilities within the Child Development Department include sensory screenings of Head Start preschoolers, vision and follow-up, medical follow-up, dental follow-up, hearing follow-up. I train teachers for medication administration, and I write emergency care plans, like as do most of our nurses, for children who face the challenge of life-threatening illnesses, such as seizures, bleeding disorders, heart problems, and cancer. I conduct one-on-one group parent education classes on health, dental health, and nutrition. Most of these direct care services that I provide are in fulfillment of federal Head Start mandates. My caseload consists of over 1,000 children, including the preschoolers in all of our full inclusion classes. To strengthen the ties within community partnership, I have mentored several LVN students from CAJ Skills Center. My program draws funding from state and federal Head Start funding, and these programs combined are very complex in their program implementation. I write various health reports. I write monthly health reports for SETA, and I've been active in writing policies and procedures within our department. I recently wrote the oral health and health narratives for our Head Start grant goals. The contributions that I make to the program portion of our department are the direct result of our Child Development Department making an investment specifically in my training. My goal is to smoothly transition every preschooler into kindergarten to ensure their academic success. To that effect, I share health data and emergency care plans through K-6 school nurses to help ensure their success. I cherish the opportunities that I have to make a difference in the lives of our children and families within this district, and I too will no longer have a position within this district without your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Will the sound carry, or is it too far?
No, you're good.
Okay. Thank you, board and superintendent and board president. My name is Rebecca Wall. I am a parent of a student within the district, and I'm also a district employee. I've been requested to read a letter from a mother who could not be here today, but she requested that this be read on her behalf. To whom it may concern, my name is Magdalena Sanchez, and my 7-year-old daughter, Annalisa Santos, goes to William Land Elementary School. She was recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in February, and it has been a very difficult time for my family. But for us, the one thing that has really helped is the help that we have and still are receiving from the school and the dedicated school nursing staff. Without their help, we would be lost, and my daughter's health would be at risk. They make it possible for my daughter to attend school and still receive the help, support, and health assistance she needs. I honestly do not know what would have happened if we didn't have that support. They currently do everything from carbohydrate counting to insulin injections with my daughter every day. They even arranged a schedule to make sure that she is never without a nurse on hand, and when she is at school or on field trips. I know that it's hard to understand what a service like this means to families who need the help until you've been put in that kind of position that me and my family are now in. But if the nursing staff is cut back, I fear that my daughter's health will again be at risk since she depends on them on a daily basis. With less nurses to assist, she will not be able to get the care that she needs and deserves. My family has grown to trust and respect the school nurses, which is a very important thing for a 7-year-old that has to have shots and finger pricks multiple times a day. I know that I am not the only family that has children that need this kind of care and assistance. Based on that, I don't believe that the services the nurses provide are services that schools and families can afford to lose. I hope that you can find a way to keep the nursing staff intact, as they are the greatest advocates, assets, and supporters of children with health and special needs. Sincerely, Magdalena Sanchez. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, board, and thank you very much for letting us speak tonight. I'm actually filling in for a nurse who was not able to make it here this evening. She has a sick child. She is a nurse that works at Hiram Johnson, and she says regularly at Hiram Johnson, she only is there 3 days a week. On a daily basis, I see numerous students with a wide variety of problems, issues, and who are in very concerning situations. On a daily basis, I complete the mandated school nurse functions, take care of unending walk-in student problems, and care for students with severe physical, mental, and emotional problems. The adolescent time is a tough one, as everyone may know. We want everyone to know that our knowledge on substance abuse, pregnancy, homelessness, relationships abuse, and all the other teen-related issues is not a luxury to be cast off as a budget item, but it is a vital necessity for the future of these young adults. I want you to think about what these students are going through and need. Now think of what your think about what you would do to help your own child. Most of these kids don't have the means or family support you and I have and are able to provide to our families, which is why it is so important when considering a bottom line. It's not the kids' fault that they are not in the situation, that they are in the situation they find themselves in. Rather, it is our chance as a professional community to help them survive these formidable years and hopefully succeed later in life, so they may someday want to return and give back because of how we have touched their lives. We do this job because we love it and we love the students. We are all faithful and hardworking and want to make a difference in these students' lives. I believe we do every minute. She's one of the nurses that has been laid off, and I myself too.
Good evening. My name is Julie Scarberry. I've been a school nurse since 1988 in this district. I've been through this many times. It's very sad to have to go through this again this year. Fortunately for me, I'm not pink slip because I have so much seniority, but it's hard to see my buddies go through this. This evening, you've heard the statistics, and you've been given a rough idea of what school nurses do. We've given you lots and lots of information. What I'd like to do is to invite you to come to a school and spend some time with a school nurse. See what we do. Meet the wonderful children we work with. I think you'd be very impressed with them, and you would really get an idea of what we're talking about. Hearing about EpiPens, hearing about teaching children staff how to take care of children with diabetics is one thing, but walking into a school and seeing how busy the office staff are while they're trying to handle children that are misbehaving in the office, and then a child comes in whose blood sugar is low and looks like they're about ready to pass out. That's something I think you need to see what we're up against. I guess basically the reason I'm here right now is to invite you. I'm not sure how we would go about doing that, but I think Pam might be able to assist us. And again, I think our kids are absolutely fantastic, and I do think it would be wonderful for you to meet some of them also. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Terry Fox. I've been a school nurse since 1999 here for the district. At that same time, I went back to school and I got a postmaster's school nurse credential. I'd already been a nurse and a nurse practitioner for a number of years, but I wanted to really focus on the care that we could deliver to our students. I'm not going to be laid off, but when I tell you what my assignment is right now, I can tell you there's no way I can do it without my colleagues. I'm currently assigned to provide nursing services for 4 elementary schools, 1 small high school, and 15 non-public schools that we contract with for special education. I just want to briefly share a little excerpt from a letter I got from a parent the other day. Her child was recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and her first thought was, I will have to homeschool my child. Luckily, she said that we gave her the confidence and we trained the staff to her satisfaction that she believes that her child can be there for 6 hours a day and be safe. I ask for your help in making sure that every child in our district is safe and healthy so they can be there to learn. Thank you.
As our next speaker approaches the microphone, if our final 4 speakers can please line up. Tawny Lambert, Darlene Anderson, Ralph Merletti, and Tan Tung.
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Noguchi. My name is Jennifer Beck-Safra, and I'm a school nurse in Sac City Unified. Usually when people hear about school nurses, they think of Band-Aids. I'm thinking that Band-Aids may actually be a good metaphor for what we do, because see, everybody needs a Band-Aid sometimes. Wounds are physical, mental, social, or emotional problems. Our students have a lot of them. When the wounds are open or raw, you need a Band-Aid. Physically, it could be as simple as a skinned knee, or as complex as a new diabetes diagnosis. Socially, it could be bullying or homelessness, and mentally, it could be a death in the family or anxiety. And just like a Band-Aid, school nurses start by putting that little cream-colored square of protection over the worst part. For students with diabetes, you've heard we train staff to recognize and respond to aberrant blood sugars. For students with seizures or food allergies, you've heard we train staff to administer emergency medication. But are you aware that there is no requirement for anyone other than nurses to be first aid and CPR trained on a regular basis? We connect with parents to see what their capabilities and resources are. Teachers and office staff receive emergency care plans, and we answer their questions. 504 plans may be developed. We cover our bases, just like a Band-Aid. The good thing about Band-Aids, and the tricky part for us, is that Band-Aids are generally designed to be invisible. People assume that Band-Aids are plentiful and easy to come by. When we do our job well, we are relatively invisible as well. Students are safe, and they're in class, learning. Teachers become comfortable with the health conditions around them, staff feel supported, principals and office staff can relax, and parents can feel reassured that their child is safe at school. School nurses help to mitigate safety and liability issues. We promote school connectedness. Nursing emphasizes care of the entire person, including physical, mental, social, emotional health. We don't just take care of conditions, we take care of people. School nurses bring incredible value to the district. We're like a value pack of Band-Aids.
Hi, my name is Tawny Lambert. I've been a school nurse with the district for 12 years. I'm in my 7th year with a K-6 school that serves about 750. We got more this year. And I am there 2 days a week. When you've worked at a school for a while, it's much easier to register a pulse, to get the sense of their health needs. So this year, I coordinated a flu clinic with Sac County. We provided flu shots for the staff and students. I did a dental screening. I didn't do it. I had dentists come in and screen the whole school. Kids that were in need went on to get dental services and orthodontic services needed. I'm involved in student study team meetings. I address medical and mental health issues that may impact a student's attendance and learning, and I make referrals as needed. I'm with the IEP team, do special ed assessments, and report at the IEP meetings. I work with nursing students at Sac State. I bring those students in and they mentor students at my school, usually in the upper grades. I also precept a nursing student that is learning about public health nursing, and this nurse provides health education to students and parents. I manage 2 diabetics at my school. I provide staff trainings, 5th grade growth and development presentations. I coordinate the delivery of bags for food for my school community. I work with the Assistance League, which provides uniforms, backpacks, hygiene supplies for my students. I have a passion for nutrition and food literacy. I work with a teacher there. We do cooking classes after school. I've aptly named it Cooking with Sparks. I teach with a teacher named Ms. Sparks. That's my passion. The role to me is very clear at my school, as are the roles of the school nurses here tonight. We're here for the health needs of the kids and the staff, and considering the amount of hours that students in school, that the students are in school, and the health issues that we are seeing at the schools, I see us as a group that is vital to our school community. And yes, I do Band-Aids and life packs. Thank you.
Darlene Anderson. After hearing all the testimony, it's really kind of difficult to understand that recently we looked at school attendance and partnering with UC Davis and helping to eliminate, kids not coming to school, and understanding that school nurses really do play a major role in ensuring that kids are at school. But when we wind up with so many kids with health issues in the SARB, I question the follow-through, because kids with health issues should not be in the SARB. My son himself, he had epilepsy, and when he was having grand mal seizures, it was important to have a school nurse. And I question the board's ability to reevaluate people who provide direct services to our children, who are district employees, and consultants who provide services through special education, and how we're going to ensure that we don't lose direct service providers for 44,000 children, and how we evaluate the benefit and how we eliminate services that are not really making a difference. Because we have a lot of kids in special ed that are not doing well. In our district, it is special ed kids and African Americans that are on the bottom. And quite frankly, I think that we have a responsibility to ensure that the services that we provide really are effective. And I don't see the ability to lose the so few school nurses that we have, because we need those nurses. We need everyone. I don't think we can afford to eliminate one. But there are many people that may participate in my IEP on a consultant basis, but they still get paid as a consultant. And even if they don't show up but once or twice a year, I think that we need to reevaluate how we are doing direct services and ensuring that we don't lose the necessary services that we have to operate every day. Thank you.
Once again, I'm Ralph Merletti. And first of all, this extends what I was talking about earlier this evening about caution needed as to community partnerships. I'm talking about slide 17, community partners. Therefore, I strongly object to Planned Parenthood being included in this list of community partnerships. Their business model is based on abortion. That's where they make their profits from. As of 2013, they asked to require that all of their facilities be able to do abortions. It is my opinion that Planned Parenthood is not about saving women's lives, it's about big business. If Planned Parenthood really cared about women, young and older, abortion would be the last thing that would come to mind, and hopefully not at all. Why can't more people see the humanity of the fetus, which could be translated in Latin, I believe, as baby? Abortion kills the unborn and can leave the mother wounded physically, psychologically, and more. Therefore, once again, I strongly object to Planned Parenthood's inclusion as a community partner. It is my opinion and others that they are in the schools to set up clients for future abortions. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Tan Tang. I'm a school nurse, also a family nurse practitioner. I've been working here with Sac City for the last 15 years, and I'm actually here just to share with you that I am, I think, the only nurse that work actually at a school 5 days a week. So I just want to share what I do as a school nurse at my site. With that opportunity, I am able to bring many health programs to my school and collaborate with outside agency. This year, I actually had my flu clinic at the very beginning of this school year. I service over 300-something students with the flu mist and the injections to our students, parents, and our staff. I also did Tdap clinic. I've been doing that for the last 3 years for my 6th graders, preparing them to go to 7th grade, so they're up to date and ready to enter and not have to miss any school days. I am planning to do it again this year. I also set up dental screenings where I coordinated with 3 different dentists that came to my school and screened all of my students. School-wide, I have 750 students or so. And out of that, of all the students that didn't have health insurance, I was able to coordinate and send them to the free dental clinics on February 1st. I also did the Vision to Learn clinic. We screened all our 1st, 3rd, and 6th grade students, and out of that, I had 54 students that failed the screening, and I was able to bring a mobile vision clinic through the Vision to Learn. And out of the 53 that we screened, 49 of them were confirmed that they needed glasses, and 3 additional students were actually referred out for further evaluation by an ophthalmologist. I play many roles in my school. I wear many hats. I am very passionate about what I do at my site, what I do as a nurse. I also, many years that I've worked there, so many students are obese, and I worried about child obesity and how it affects their health and with the future health complications. So I actually brought in parent engagement involving parents to come into the school. I have Zumba at my site where I, educate about physical fitness and healthy eating, healthy diets, and have nutrition series. And what I've noticed that they really benefit from this program are our parents are actually, instead of bringing sodas and chips and cookies to our parent meeting that I have monthly, they're actually making healthy meals, cooking home meals with a recipe that we were given to them. And also my Zumba classes, the parents are coming in instead of just juice and sodas and water, they're actually doing Going Green with kale smoothie, kale broccoli, and fruits smoothie. So that tells me that, they are benefiting from the program, and they are learning and educating, and they're modeling the healthier living and healthier choices and modeling that behavior to their students. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Member Arroyo.
Thank you, President Kennedy. Just wanted to first off start by saying to the nurses that are here, and Ms. Tom, had an opportunity to meet you years ago, Peter Burnett, and thank you for all the work that you do there. Just simply thank you. And I think that that's a common statement that you will hear from my colleagues here and just about anyone that understands the work that you do. When I first ran for the board, it was one of the first conversations that I had with Janine, and we had an opportunity to talk about the value that they bring. And previous work that I had done, I already knew that for many students, for many families, this is the only time that they will ever get any medical attention. Tummy aches, you name it. And I don't need to belabor, but I just wanted to not only empathize, but just let you know that I think that it doesn't fall on deaf ears. The information that you bring forth and the value that you bring to the district and to the community, especially when we're talking a community that has probably over 70% socioeconomic need in the district. So it's imperative that we can maintain as much of the services that we can. Having said that, I do have a couple of questions. One of them is on the application of medication, and I know that there's new laws and requirements, especially for seizures medication. What does that look like at the site level? I mean, we talk about it, and philosophically we may agree or disagree, but what does that look like on a day-to-day basis when there is or there isn't a nurse and there's a case where seizure medication needs to be applied? I mean, fill us in and give us a little bit of more of a...
All right. Well, in the case of Diastat, which is what we brought up, that's the most commonly used medication to arrest seizures, and it's quite an advancement in medical science, and it helps a lot of people, a lot of students. But what it looks like is that when a child is seizing and they're having a prolonged seizure, it means that someone has to pull down their pants, and they have to get out the syringe, and the dosage is dialed in to the syringe already by the pharmacist, and they have to lubricate the tip. The tip's about that long, and they have to insert it into the rectum of the child while they're seizing, and then hold their buttocks together basically so medication doesn't seep back out, and then stay with them during, and hopefully it will arrest the seizure. And many times it does, and doesn't always, but that's the mechanics in the situation. And that's why it's very important to train more than one person, because it takes a lot of people to manage that situation. And there you have to manage the other students while this is going on. If this starts in a classroom, you have to have people that get the kids out of the classroom, and so staff can attend to that. And you're calling 911 while this is going on. You're always calling 911 just in case. And so there's a lot of things that go on just for that one particular drug.
I mean, okay, so a child is in the yard, something happens. I mean, is there a protocol of who needs to rush in? It's whoever sees the child first. It seems like it just, especially as we are diminishing, hopefully we can avoid diminishing the ranks of nurses, and hopefully in the near future we can actually start rebuilding back up. But I mean, staff-wise, I mean, what's the protocol? How do we deal with
that situation is already present, though. School nurses are not at the school sites most of the time. And I have a concern as well about who is trained. We train staff as the students present to us, but what I would like to see are some set staff at each school site who are trained to do all of the emergency medications and who have CPR and first aid certification, and that's currently not occurring. So if we have a student with a seizure disorder with a Diastat order, we train the staff there to respond to that. and that's up to the school site. Those people have to volunteer too. And so we train them as best we can, and we try to provide for that safe environment, but I do think there are gaps there.
And it's a very difficult situation.
It is.
There's no easy way, to
Right.
deal with it. But even the more to thank not only the nurses, but also the rest of the school staff that
Right.
some way or another are pitching into making sure that the students' needs are met. But thank you for taking the time, and as difficult as it is to listen, it's just very valuable to know so that we're aware of the difficulties and the challenges that not only nurses but staff have to do day in and day out at our regular school sites. And then as we move forward, to what degree, and maybe other district staff can help us understand, to what degree has the voice of health services and needs have been part of the LCAP discussions? Do we need more? Obviously there's more to do. There's never a limit as to how many things we can get done. But to what degree are we incorporating this information or these needs into the greater plan as we move forward?
I can answer that. Part of the process with LCAP is going out and getting information from parents, students, staff, and it is really up to the information we get from those communities, whether it filters back into the LCAP plan. Certainly there's, in addition to LCAP, there's additional funding sources that, again, as we get to the May 15th, we understand where our budgets are. We'll look to use different monies, if you will. We certainly understand and appreciate the work that everyone does here, and we know that we could have 50 more of you out there in the schools meeting the needs. So it is a priority, and so at this point it's looking at both the May revise and then also the information that comes back from the community through the LCAP process.
Okay, thank you. And then on the latter or the earlier part of the presentation, as you were sharing information on the 504 plans.
Okay.
Who makes the determination on a condition limiting, what is it? Someone needs to determine that a condition limits a life activity. Is that what I understood correctly?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So there's a team, but is there a person that finally says yes, no, or how does that come about?
It's really through consensus of the team, but it's really, you're using documentation. It's not just people's opinions. You're also using documentation of testing, of observation to make that determination. And these students also have a diagnosis, a disability, a diagnosis that's documented. So that right there indicates that there's something going on. But then how it presents and how it might limit or not limit, that's based on what goes on in the classroom and that observation, as well as the parents' understanding and their, and what they present also to the school. So it's really, it is a group that gets together to discuss it. And it's usually fairly clear if a 504 is indicated based on the documentation and the information gathering. And you can also request additional assessments if necessary to help supplement that understanding.
Okay. And then what happens or should happen when or if a teacher or site staff or administration does not meet the child's needs per the 504?
What will happen if then sometimes it comes to my attention, but sometimes it'll just come to the school's attention, and then it's usually incumbent upon the principal of the school to ensure that the 504 is being adhered to and that there's compliance, because you must comply with the accommodation plan. So if it isn't and it comes to someone's attention, then the principal makes sure that the teachers have the plan and that they're accountable to implementing that plan.
If there are any given reoccurrences, is there a protocol for kind of kicking it up further up, or what happens? So it's just a matter of kind of nagging, or
well.
And the reason I'm asking is because I had a parent ask me, right?
Yes.
Multiple times, they have it, and so I'm just trying to understand what your process is, so that
Okay.
I'm better equipped at answering some of these questions.
I'll tell you how that works. Is that if a parent feels like there isn't compliance to it, it tends to come back to me. And so then I do get a phone call, or I get, usually a phone call, and then I will talk to the principal and let the principal know, and I will talk to the area soup to also inform them that I've received this phone call, and then I'll follow up to ensure that, that the information gets sent off into two directions. One, I do talk to the principal, but that's usually after I've talked with the area soup to inform them that I have received a complaint, if you will, that there is noncompliance.
Thank you for that information. And lastly, I just, yes, those instances have come up, but I want to also reiterate thank you for the work that you do. I know that when we have from what I see, the statistics, a quarter potentially of the students having some sort of need, then it is a tremendous amount of work. And I want to thank you for all the work that you do and trying to meet those needs.
Thank you.
Rodriguez.
Thank you. You can stay, because I have questions for both of you.
Okay, so I'll stay up.
So I was taking notes on the IDEA, and then the 504. So when I was looking at the numbers that you presented in terms of how many 504s were written, I'm trying to find the page here. It seemed really low compared to, the information that we've received as a board. It's like how many students are special needs or special education. Is my understanding of that correct? That it is a little lower, or?
In the slide, I think that you're referencing is actually coming out of health services, and so it's it's more of a cumulative. I think it's including emergency health plans that include 504s.
I see. So it's not the whole population.
No, it's just those that have 504s that have emergency care plans.
All righty, that makes more sense to me.
And to have 504s, but they're both.
Yeah, no, I understand that. That's why I was like, gosh, it seems a little low compared to what we have in. Are we not doing our annual reviews, or what seemed to be the issue? But now it makes more sense.
Okay. Great.
The other question I have is about the 504s. Having worked in the classroom myself, and having worked your example that you talk about the child with ADHD, I know that in my school was a different situation, but I know that I hardly received any training whatsoever on how to deal with a student that had that diagnosis. So what is provided by the district to the staff, to the teacher of this child that moves along from grade to grade? What types of trainings and supports are provided so that way the 504 plan is implemented and services are being provided?
So the 504 plan moves with the child, and so when they matriculate up to the next class, the 504 follows them. But it is reviewed to make sure that it's meeting their current needs. And then the teachers are provided with that. And so the plan is pretty extensive with detail on what the accommodation is, what they need to be doing. And I would say that, most teachers do know and have learned about ADHD. It's a somewhat common diagnosis and disability. So I'm sure there is different training. But as far as that would usually happen at the school site if there's additional specific training on a disability.
For example, the diversion technique of how to get the child back onto focus.
That's not something that I would do, but I think that's something that would come through teacher training at the school site.
Okay. All right. My other questions are going to be for the medical component. Thank you. So I want to say, first of all, I'm appalled that looking at our nurse-to-patient ratio, or nurse-to-student ratios, it is recommended 1 to 750, and I know that we didn't get here by ourselves. We, on our side,
were forced to do specific cuts because of funding. Can you explain a little bit more about that funding? Why there is a withholding of the MAW? Can you explain that out a little bit more for
I'll
me?
try.
Yeah, okay.
And actually, Ken might actually do a better job of that than me.
Okay. Whoever.
Would you mind, Ken, please? Or you?
It's about the MAW.
I could give you the Cliff Note version.
Yeah, the Cliff Notes.
Or I can explain it too if you need.
Yeah. I mean, basically, there is a disagreement between the state of California and the federal government on the appropriate mechanism to send in claims information to be reimbursed. And so my last great experience when a state and the federal government got into this disagreement, it took 4 years to get it resolved. So, and then we received 30% of the original funding allocation. So we are carrying on the books $2.7 million accounts receivable for these funds, which we will have to clear. And this year we're short approximately $1,300,000. So it's anybody's guess as to when the issue will be resolved. There are 2 locations in the state that are receiving funds, Los Angeles Unified School District and the Santa Barbara County Office of Education. Other than that, funds are being withheld.
Can you tell me why those two?
They utilized a different software package than the rest of the state and had different reporting criteria.
And maybe Member Hansen can answer this since he works in a specific area. But what is being done on California's side to communicate to the federal level to explain the impact that they're making on all children who have needs, but specifically for children who are in that extremely disadvantaged area that are of lower income and don't have adequate health care? I don't know if you want to take that on or... Okay.
We've communicated with the federal government. This is a waiver that has to be granted by the CMS. They've withheld the funds because the Department of Health Care Services is responsible for overseeing the funds here in California. CMS did an audit of 3 districts out of the 700 that are eligible to receive this money. 2 of them showed that they were filing for funds incorrectly, and so they stopped funding all of the programs, all 700, because of 2 bad audits, and required DHCS to come up with a new criteria to show that they were going to be have adequate accountability measures in place. And they have not been able to do that for 2.5 years. So we are now 2.5 years in arrears. It has recently risen to a level now where the Secretary, Diana Dooley, who's our Secretary of HHS, is working on it with the federal government, but it's still going to take some time. Our district asked if we could do the same accounting methods that LAUSD received a waiver directly from CMS. They refused. Our state of California refused to let us do that, so that's something that we should also be lobbying on, and CTA should be lobbying on. They've been working with us on this. There's a lot of people that are engaged on this. It's insane. The more you find out about it, it's very aggravating. The state superintendent of public instruction, Tom, Torlexon's involved in this. We've met with him. I just had a meeting earlier today with Dr. Richard Pan, who's the chair of the Assembly Health Committee. He's personally engaged in talking to the secretary. This, because it's a schools issue, but it has to be handled through healthcare services, it just didn't rise to that level of importance because they're dealing with so many other things that it didn't get up to where it needed to. And then the way that they're trying to impose it on us, it does not working for our school district. We would probably lose 50% of the money that we're eligible for because they are changing the criteria of what's eligibility, and all of a sudden teachers aren't going to be eligible to be reimbursed. It's a change in the rules going retroactively all the way back to 2009. So they've made a lot of mistakes in this, and it's just like Mr. Forrest said, it's amazing how long this can keep dragging out, and it could be another year before it gets solved. We've been given another 1-year waiver to go ahead and to bill, but I don't see this getting solved anytime in the immediate future, as horrible and as unbelievable as it is.
So the alternative is...
By the way, Mr. Forrest, thank you.
Yes, sir. The alternative, as was presented tonight, is the district is looking at alternative funding sources.
What does that look like?
Ole, back to you, huh? We're currently looking at a variety of different things. One is LCAP, see where it plays out in the priorities from our communities, our teachers, our community members. We're also looking at possibly carryover funds for next year. Now we can't say how much we have in carryover because we're still a couple months out before the end of the school year, but we can sort of look at anticipate some funds that are going to be allocated out. So we're looking at that area. And then also we're looking at the May Revise. May Revise usually comes in. I've asked Mr. Forrest to be very conservative because I'm very conservative with money, and we are looking at a conservative budget right now, which hopefully in May then we can look to fund some of these areas that people really feel a need and want and desire, and yet we still fall just a little bit short. So those are three.
So I believe we understand the value of the program, the value of the individuals providing the services, and it's very high on the list. So
Thank you, Mr. Forrest. Yeah, I mean, it's no doubt that, nurses are so needed and required in our schools. And I don't like the idea of having to move students into what you had described earlier, into a diabetic school. It just takes away from the students' ability to be who they are in their own environment. So, I, for one, will be doing what I can on my side with the people that I know in the places that I know them at. But I think that this requires a bigger level of concern and a more active engagement from communities, statewide, communities in Sacramento as well. And for people to bug their Congress member that this is a top priority. We can't, just because of a couple of school districts that, improperly filed. And I mean, if anyone knows government paperwork, it's me, and probably all of you that have to fill it out. It can get confusing. And so, the least amount of paperwork and the red tape that we have to go through in order to provide adequate care and quality care to our students and our patients in the state of California, the better. So I thank you all for your services. If it wasn't for you guys, my children, when they get sick, they don't, get their temperature taken and a mommy call to come pick them up. So thank you very much.
Member Hanson.
Well, I get to give my big speech already, so...
You did.
Thank you.
I can abbreviate some of my remarks, but, in addition to... I'll just say, obviously, these services are critical. There's no doubt about that. Not only do we need to do it for the students and for the families, it's the right thing to do, but it's a significant liability to the district if we don't do it. So we've got to try to figure this out. And I know our administrative staff and the board members are committed to doing that. So it's hard to ask for patience, but that's kind of where we're at. Just also want to say, I've had a chance to meet with several of you that are here today, and I appreciated the time that you took to educate me about the issue. That's really important for me. I also, one thing I didn't mention, I did actually get to testify in the state legislature, so I got to go talk to one of the budget committees and make a case on behalf of all of you in our district and other districts that are in the same position. I'm looking forward to continuing to work on this, and Diana, all of us here, we can bring some more resources to bear on that, because the more you find out about it, the more infuriating it is that this can't just be solved. And there's literally between $500 million and $600 million of federal reimbursement money that's sitting back in Washington, D.C. for all of our schools in the state of California, because we can't figure out the right way for the state to show that we're being accountable when we spend the money. And it's crazy that this has not risen to the level that it's been solved yet. But I also just want a couple other just side comments, but I had a chance to work with several of the nurses as well on the Vision to Learn and the pre-screening that happened there. We had a free opportunity to provide eyeglasses to students in our district, and I know we provided over 300 pairs of glasses to students that needed them, that would have never gotten them. And that was just a pilot project, and that was because of the work that you did. So I really appreciate that. That makes a difference in a child's life immediately. And then just also say, I know we work with a lot of partnerships, including Planned Parenthood, so I applaud you for working with all of them. That's important. That helps stretch our funding further, and those are the kinds of things we need to be doing. Appreciate your time, and rest assured we're going to be working very hard on making sure that we take care of our commitment to our students and be able to continue your good work.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments for the board? Thank you very much. Well done. 10.4. An action item asking to approve coherent governance policy OE7, asset protection. Dr. Noguchi.
At this point, I can just take questions and hopefully provide some clarification on both OE7 and I believe it's OE8, which is the next one.
One at a time. Hanson.
I must have pushed my button before Diana, so.
You did.
I just want to say, I guess, kind of make just a statement on this. I never, and I asked previously, it was before your time, Dr. Noguchi, but I've never been briefed on exactly what coherent governance is, why we have it, what it means, and that's just, I'm very uncomfortable with that. So, though I will be supporting this tonight, I am going to have a difficult time supporting this in the future, any other OEs, because I would like to have an opportunity to be educated about that. It wasn't part of my prep when I got onto the board, and I've had a number of folks that have raised this issue with me, and I can't explain it to my satisfaction, and I don't like that. But I would like us to have an opportunity to address this at some point in the future. So I guess I'm also addressing this to our Mr. President, where we can have some kind of an opportunity to talk about this and really vet it a little bit more, because it may be that its time has come and gone. But I just want to make a statement about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Before Member Rodriguez, I see your number. But let me say that we do have a committee that has been established to look at exactly the issues that you've talked about. The committee is actually made up of Vice President Wu and Vice President Pritchett. But any board member, of course, is welcome to attend any meeting of any committee. We have, by the way, also we do post those committees. They are public, and they will be posted just like any other meeting following Brown Act. So hopefully that will give you an opportunity to get some of those answers. And there's probably, I'm just going to go on a limb here, there's probably questions now. Member Rodriguez.
Yeah, I actually don't have a question specifically about number 7. I will for 8. But just, I was going to save my comment for the next item, but because Member Hanson brought up what he brought up, I have a specific note here. It's not anything for anyone to address right now, but it's something to be aware of. These specific operational expectations came forward with the interpretation of our former superintendent. And so because here we are today without that person here with their interpretations and what their intent was on how they were going to monitor this. I really feel that one of two things. One, we either do away with coherent governance, or two, modify some sort, come up to a hybrid of how we used to govern our, from a board perspective, and blend some of this in or whatever. But it's difficult to make a decision on these operational expectations because of the interpretations that were created by somebody else, and because the person who's being held responsible now today wasn't fully engaged in all of that process. So that's where I'm having the difficulty. I think we should take the opportunity to place them on the agenda. If there's any questions that either we have or the interim superintendent has in the interim time, we should be allowed that space to discuss them. And that's why I wanted them to be pulled from the consent agenda and put onto the regular agenda. Not that we should dispute anything, but that we should have an opportunity to discuss them.
Fair enough. And as I said, there has been a committee established to do a lot of what you just talked about, and be it recognized that these will not be put on consent in the future.
Thank you.
So with that, this is an action item. Is there a motion? Moved by Vice President Wu. I'm sorry, a second. Second by Vice President Pritchett. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. 10.5, approve coherent governance policy operational expectations OE8, communicating with the board, taking into account everything that we just heard. Is there board comment? Member Rodriguez.
Thank you again. I'd like to know on page 1, and my time's up. On page 1, I don't see from the interim superintendent what she believes the school system is in compliance with exceptions, or not in compliance. It's just not a box mark there.
Page 1 being the cover sheet?
Yep.
To be honest with you, I don't know in comparing one to the other if you're the one that judges if it's in compliance or not, or if I'm supposed to be the one to do that. I absolutely would say it's in compliance.
It's on the second page.
Okay.
Well, it says page 1 on the, on the OE itself, not the executive summary. Sorry. So, and this is exactly why I wanted to bring this up on the board for discussion, is because of little things like this. This happens in 2 parts. So you put your part in what you believe, if you've complied or you complied without, with some like exceptions in there, or you're not in compliance, or the district, let's just say, is not in compliance. So you have to make sure you mark that. And then the board then takes a vote on whether we feel that we are in agreement or we're in compliance with exceptions, or so on and so forth.
It sounds like I need a little bit of training like Member Hanson.
Yeah.
Well, and in fairness, these were developed with the superintendent in the room. So
exactly.
In fairness for Superintendent Noguchi,
yeah,
didn't have that benefit of that.
So. Yeah, so these are just a good example of how she's at, or any superintendent after is at a disadvantage on these things.
All good points.
Thank you.
Anyone else? This is an action item. Is there a motion? Moved by Member Hanson, second by Vice President Wu. All those in favor, aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. 11 point. Is there any public comment? Mr. Ross, I apologize.
Are you on 11.0?
Yeah, you should just jump in when I do that.
Sure. There's one comment on 11.0 from Maria Rodriguez.
Good evening, President Kennedy, Superintendent Noguchi, and members of the school board. My name is Maria Rodriguez, and I'm an extremely satisfied recipient of my public neighborhood schools. Besides that, in my other life, I'm a number cruncher. I love valuable data, meaningful data, I mean. I also want to thank you, Superintendent Noguchi, for coming out to JFK's Day at CSU. And I listened to every word you said. You said some really good words. And one of the things you said was ask questions and make sure you get the answers. I've been working on that for a while. Yeah, it was great. I appreciate you being out there to speak to the kids. And I asked my son if he was paying attention. I appreciate the attendance and enrollment data that is provided on the very last page of this packet. I want to make an observation. I want to make a suggestion. And if I have time, I want to tell a story, but I don't think I'll have time. Enrollment in our public schools, from what I can see, has decreased generally 686 from the previous year. I know that doesn't take into account charter schools. I don't really understand how charter schools are funded and such, but I want to remind you that last year when we closed 7 schools, we saved $1.47 million, I think it was, slightly less than $1.5 million when we closed 7 schools. So I wondered how much did it cost us, all the students that we lost in enrollment, and I came up with a number of $5.4 million when I multiplied 686 times $43.95 a day times 180 school days. And I had to recalculate that. $5.4 million, that's how much we lose in students not coming to the public schools. I know there are a lot of reasons for why they have left. So my observation is just, wow, we could have, for that 5.4, that's like 24 schools that we would not have had to close. My recommendation is when you make decisions in the future, and I think you're making decisions much more thoughtfully and honestly and in transparently than in the past. When you do, I suggest consider who are we going to lose? Today I heard someone say someone may homeschool their kid if the nurses are gone. I mean, there are instances like that. I was here when music and sports and things like that were on the chopping block, and I'm pretty sure.
I'm only letting you go over because you were saying nice things about us.
Okay, I know. And I didn't get to my story, and I'll forget it. But thank you. I appreciate that. And that's just what I have to say is when you think about these things, do think about why are people leaving the district, and I wonder why 686 left. 511 look like they went to charter schools. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Yes, you may. You are the superintendent.
So just for your information, we do have an enrollment task force that we have begun under the leadership of Lisa Allen, who is chief of schools. We welcome additional people in that committee, so if you could give her your number, certainly you can continue your advocacy and your questions, and hopefully we can get some of those questions answered for you.
She'll even take you to lunch, right? So, future board meetings, we have April 24th at 4:30 closed session, 6:30 open session. May 1st is 4:30 closed session, 6:30 open session, sorry. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I'd like to motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion made by Member Kovalchuk and seconded by Vice President Pritchett. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? You're adjourned.